So now we got a boatload of trouble, though, either way, in the Senate and in the House when it comes to the public option. Well, there's one other branch of government, and this would be the time to step in. It's the White House, right? So an encouraging sign, Nancy Ann DeParle, she's the director of White House Office of Health Reform. So very, very relevant here. She says that it's not true that there was any difference between the president and Harry Reid on the public option. Here's the quote. The president has talked about the public plan option. Wow. He said all along that he thought it was a critical tool for producing choice and competition. And he put it on the table, and he's invited the leadership to get us to this point. Now, I read that, and I think that is an enormously lukewarm quote. But here she is. But there are two upsides. At least she's saying it in public. Look. Yeah, no. We believe in the public option. And then second of all, she changed the word from an important tool to a critical tool. Now, once we get to the word essential tool, that means the White House is actually on our side. Okay? So we're inching closer to the word essential, because that's how politics is played.
Or giant tool. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Joe Lieberman.
So she says critical tool. Now the rest of it is nonsense. We've always talked about the public option.
Yeah, I remember once the president used it in a sentence.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot.
Well, look, I mean, that statement is very much in line with how the president has played this throughout, because they have been unable to determine, despite. Look, if the odds tilted to where they thought they could get it significantly, then he would have lobbied for it, and he'd have pressured it, and he'd have pushed people over. They clearly are, as evidenced by what happened today. I mean, they thought just because Harry Reid decides to go with it, they knew there's going to be blowback on this, and so they're being careful because they don't want to push for it and have him exert his presidential influence on it and not have it happen.
That is a generous way of looking at it. Now, we have quotes on that in a second as well. So now he's saying that he put it on the table, again, lukewarm. But President Obama himself spoke today. Now, he was speaking on a number of issues, including Guantanamo Bay, not just healthcare reform, but he did have a strong quote. He said, I've tried to explain, just because I'm skinny doesn't mean I'm not tough. I don't rattle. I'm not going to shrink back, because now is the time for us to continue to push and follow through on those things that we know have to be done, but have not been done in decades. All right, good, tough quotes. Where he's on Harry Reid's side, he's going to push for the public option. He does not rattle. Can you see where this is going? Now here come the bad quotes. As they say that in public, they told something to Chuck Todd of NBC News that is entirely different, and he went on air and reported it. One official said that Majority Leader's strategy, Harry Reid's strategy of going for the public option and putting it into the bill is, quote, dangerous. So now if you're in favor of it, would you really think that it's dangerous? That goes partly to what Ben was saying.
I read that as recognizing this, what's happening today.
Okay. Now, if you think that's a little troubling, here comes a second quote reported by Chuck Todd on Morning Joe NBC this morning, MSNBC this morning. You're the vote counter. This is the White House, basically, and Chuck Todd said he was paraphrasing, telling Harry Reid and the rest of the Senate Democrats, you're the vote counter, but don't come crying to us when you need that last vote. Yeah. Well, what that means is we're not going to do a damn thing. We're not going to lift a finger to pressure any Democrats, whether they're in the House or in the Senate side. And when you fail, don't come crying to us, because we opted for a weaker version and we wanted to sell out. So you acted strongly, and if you don't get it done, it's on your head. Okay. Now, are they serious about that threat? They can't possibly be serious about that threat. What, they're going to just sit on the sidelines?
They might.
Okay, but if they do, then the health care reform is going to die. Well, or what they can do, and this is more troubling, is they can go on Lieberman's side.
Well, they're not going to go on Lieberman's side, but they'll ultimately then be a health care bill. Presumably, they think that there'll be a health care bill that enough Democrats will support that doesn't have a public option, and they'll pass that.
No, but that's what I mean by going on Lieberman's side. That they will then say, all right, look, here's our choices, because we're going to pass this thing. It's not a choice for the White House not to pass it. This is their most important legislative agenda. It's their top priority. So the question is, how are they going to pass it? One that's real and strong and has a public option, or one that's BS and that they're going to spoon feed you and pretend they got real reform? And it looks like they have been throughout, as we have reported on the show and showed you over and over, on the side of one without a public option that isn't very strong reform.
Well,
now here they're saying to Harry Reid, oh, you want a strong one, you want a real one. Well, we're not on your side. Go, F off and try to do it on your own. And look, we're not going to help you at all. And if they think this is not going to work, they could flip over to the people saying, oh, no, yeah, you're right, no 60 votes. Joe Lieberman is right, and Kent Conrad is right, and all those guys are right. What are we going to do? Harry, come on, I'm going to pressure you. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Take it out of the bill. Let's go for one without a public option.
Right, but Cenk, you got to. I mean, I don't think that that's wrong. But it's also only one way of looking at it. And the fact of the matter is, as always with Obama, and what has irritated many progressives, myself included, is he's really cautious. And the fact is, the votes might not be there. And if the votes aren't there, well, then the votes aren't there, and they're not going to have.
Well, the votes aren't going to be there if the president doesn't pressure.
I mean, could you imagine? But hold on. No, wait. But there's also the possibility that the votes won't be there if the president does pressure.
How about you try? How about you lead? How about you're the president?
I understand, but
can you imagine? Let me tell you. Can you imagine Lyndon Johnson says, "Oh, you know what? If I try on Medicare and Medicaid and I pressure the Democrats and the senators, it might not happen, so I'm not going to try."
But I mean,
who do you think Medicare or Medicaid would happen?
What made Lyndon Johnson so great at pressuring was when he pressured and when he didn't pressure, and there were plenty of times when he did not pressure.
Oh, if we had that kind of balance from Obama, I mean, look at what I'm saying about Harry Reid. I think he was strong when he went for it yesterday, and when he doesn't go after Lieberman today, I don't.
I think you were.
I get it. I know how politics is work.
But I think you're looking. I think
if you don't do any pressure, on the other hand, then you're a clown and you're weak and you're not a leader.
Well, I mean, I disagree with that, and as always, I disagree with that because I think it's too simplistic, and I think there's every possibility, also, sadly, that Harry Reid did that yesterday so that he could say, "I tried," knowing full well that there was an excellent possibility that would fail. And then he can say, no, look, everybody was saying I'm weak. No, look, I tried.
That is a possibility.
And they knew from day one that it probably wasn't going to work.
Look, that is a possibility, right? So then our effusive praise of Harry Reid yesterday is misplaced, which is entirely possible. Now, but then you're left with a reality that Harry Reid is weak and was full of crap. Barack Obama is weak and full of crap. It doesn't really excuse any of them. It just means they all suck.
Well, I mean, I disagree with sucking by the fact that they don't get I mean, it's disappointing. I think that, as I've said on the show before, and as Jonathan Alter maintains, that there's value in passing this bill, even if it doesn't have the public option. There's a lot of great stuff in it, a lot of crucial stuff in it. It's way better, and I agree with you that they ought to try. But the fact of the matter is, what we see as trying, is not just going for it on 4th and 4 at the other guy's 46 when you're down 17-14 with 9 minutes to play. Because they feel as if, right or wrong, they already know how that play ends. It ends with the ball getting tipped at the line of scrimmage and the other guy's taken over. And if they've done, and whether you agree with their calculus or not, if they've made that calculus, they're not going to expend the political capital to do it, and they're not even going to. What you describe as trying.
I want to look. I want to call them what they are again. Well, if you never go for it, and you're a coward and you're weak, and so of course you'll always lose all the battles, and you know how that play ends because you know you're not going to go for it. Okay, but let's not take my word for it. Let's not take Ben's word for it. Huffington Post has a senior Democratic source on the Hill. Okay, so let's get their perspective. And their perspective isn't the end-all, be-all, but it's an interesting perspective. Here's the quote. Everybody knows we're close enough that these guys could be rolled. They just don't want to do it because it makes the politics harder. These last couple of folks, meaning the few Senate Democrats left, they could get them if Obama leaned on them. Now, just because this source thinks so, and he's a senior Democratic source, we don't know who he is, doesn't make it so. But is it an interesting piece of evidence? Yes. So there are a lot of people on the Hill very frustrated with Barack Obama because he won't try.
That's unquestionably that's true, but it's just as meaningful to have that quote from the senior White House official who describes it as dangerous. I mean, and I don't know, but I definitely don't. There's no question that if he leaned on it, it would make a difference. I don't know that it would make enough of a difference. I also, as when we had that momentous day when Max Baucus's Finance Committee passed the bill and it didn't have it in it, and I was on the show that day, and I was like, yeah, we're making too much of today. We're We're making too much of that day. We're also making too much of today.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I don't mean about today. I get it. And this, look, there's an up and down, and yeah, we made too much of yesterday. We make too much of today. We make too much of the good news and the bad news. I don't want you to get too discouraged. I don't want you to get too encouraged. That I agree with. Here's what I'm really concerned about, is that this is not the guy I voted for. That's the bigger problem. Because if you say to me, hey, look, Cenk, I disagree with this little legislative move he made there or there, of course, I'm not going to agree with everything he says. But if this guy campaigned on change, real change, and then he comes in and he won't even try for change, well, then I got to say, that's not the guy I voted for.